again. I'm with my daddy. Daddy. Daddy.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
love this space. I really do. I really love sharing this with you. I love letting people in on these conversations because love never fails, right? And there may be women, there may be men, there may be boys, there may be girls, there may be just folks trying to figure it out that need to be let in on conversations with a daddy, conversations with a father. And so I count it such a blessing and a privilege and so fortunate to be able to share this space with you. How you doing, Papa?
I am awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Life is better every day. Life is good. Life is good.
I love
Excellent.
that. And how are y'all doing? I hope y'all are doing good today. I don't know if anybody's asked you, but we care how you feel.
Yes, we do.
Know that you're welcome in this space. You're welcome
We're
in
glad that
this, what we're sharing, and we're doing this really for you. We talk all the time, but we're inviting you into this space. And so I hope you enjoy it. Find a seat, get comfortable. Let's talk a little bit. All right, Papa?
grab you some coffee. Get you some coffee. Sit back and hang out with us.
Or a cocktail.
Hey, nothing wrong
Well,
with a glass of wine. Nothing
a
wrong.
little water.
What Jesus told us not to drink so much water.
Listen,
Drink a little wine for your
a
ultimate.
little wine. I think that Jesus and me would have been best friends.
Yeah, yeah. He'd have been my homie for sure. If I'd
He
have been
sound like the kind of guy that like to turn up.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. You really can't go by others' descriptions of him
No.
because
Uh-oh.
he deals with each one of us personally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you try to mold yourself into someone's religious idea of who he is. It becomes a misfit for you and it becomes an arduous, difficult journey. And you don't enjoy walking with him. But when you understand, there we go. I want to get into preaching. Let me be careful.
Ooh, we'll get to it. There's plenty of time. We got all the space and time in the world.
Sounds good.
Let's see. So where we last left off, you made a very poignant, thought-provoking statement. You said every husband is a covering or a head, but not necessarily a leader.
Okay.
That's a that's and
It is.
it's a strong statement because the way society has set things up, there's like this expectation that a husband is going to come in and have all the answers and know all the things to do and lead and be able to orchestrate and just do all these things. And I do think that it sets us up for failure
Mhm.
because that's not necessarily those are not necessarily shoes that every man can fill.
Right.
So Papa, what did you mean when you made that statement?
Well, I think it really deserves some clarity. And here's what I mean. I think that every man, uh, innate in him by the Creator, is to be a covering, to cover, to take care of his family, to provide, to do all the things he's supposed to do. But I think our idea of marriage is Western culture,
Mm,
not kingdom culture or not biblically culture. So we have an idea of marriage where the man is concerned that terms that have been used to describe the role of a man in America as a husband is not necessarily biblical or it does not bring balance to the understanding. So well, here's what I mean by my statement that every man is a covering, but not every man is a leader. Now, when I talk in terms of leader, I have to delineate. Leadership to me is the ultimate. I think every man is endowed with leadership ability,
okay.
but
Okay.
I don't think he has to lead in everything. That's what I mean. He doesn't have to lead in everything. I think that there's an expectation that a man is supposed to lead in this. He's supposed to do this. This is what a man is supposed to do. And also on the female side, this is what a woman is supposed to do. So we try to design our marriage, our relationships, not around the idea that the creator gives us about relationship, but by the culture in which we live in and what we're inundated with commercials and our understanding of what relationship is to the extent that marriage has almost been disdained
Yeah.
because of the fact that the terms in which they use and the way they have constructed Western society marriage and the culture of marriage in America, it is built to fail. if you build it around the culture.
Oh, there's so many places that I could take that. The first thing that comes to mind is um, you pointed out in our last conversation that I am a leader.
Yes.
And I definitely identify with that.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember in my younger years, not necessarily wearing that role because it's not really a title. It really just is it's who
Mm-hmm.
you are,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's a
I didn't
person.
wear it
It's
well.
a trait. It's a trait in the personality. It's not something you can get. You can't go to school
Right.
and get it. It's just a trait. Yeah.
And I feel as though I didn't wear it well because I was trying to fit within the confines of this idea that women are um, to be feminine,
Mm-hmm.
be seen as soft, to
Mm-hmm.
be seen as worthy of being taken care of. You don't lead. And the older I've gotten, the more I realize that that couldn't be further from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not a prerequisite of femininity or feminine energy. There's a lot of leadership in feminine energy. Um, and I say that really just to connect with some of our viewers or people who may be dropping in on this conversation, for them to know that if that's something that they've experienced, you're not the only one. Um, and I also highlight that because I do feel as though society has created this false paradigm of relationship roles, as it were. The husband is supposed to lead in all things, and the woman is supposed to follow in all things. Whereas you've explained, and even in the dynamic of the relationship between you and mom, I've seen, some give and take. In a
Yes.
lot of successful relationships, I've seen the push and pull. I've seen women lead in certain areas, men lead in other areas, so I think that that's a topic worth discussing.
Mm-hmm.
uh what would you say, or is there any more that you would like to add to that thought that husbands are absolutely the covering?
Well, it's not an absolute. I think it's a.
Husbands are not absolutely
And
covering?
when I say absolute, in the sense that covering is transcending. The husband covers the wife, and the wife covers the children. It just
Mhm,
keeps going down. So
mhm,
it's
mhm.
covering is not something that is indigenous just to the male. It is a human quality.
I love that you said that.
The
Okay.
role of the man and his role as a husband, as a covering, the wife as a covering, the oldest daughter, your sister as a covering, you as a covering to your
Mhm.
baby brothers. So the covering just continues to show, but we have emphasized covering for men, and we have defined it in a certain way. Now,
Yeah,
when I say covering, it's more than just the financial aspect, even
yeah,
though it's inclusive, it's the emotional aspect. Covering to me sometimes means that you have to uh, resign to your will and for the betterment of the will of the whole. And that's covering for anybody. That's just not on the male side. Now, when it comes to leadership, leadership has more to do with information about destination than
Mm.
it does about who leads. Who,
Information about destination.
in
Yeah.
other words, so in other words, say you're a real estate agent
Hmm.
and we're getting ready to buy a house, and your husband is a plumber.
Hmm.
Who we
Right.
gonna go? Who we're gonna follow the information? You're a real estate agent, and the sink breaks. Who we gonna follow? Now, in either one of those dimensions, it doesn't take away from your role as a covering, as a leader. Because to be a covering, you have to be a leader. Because the greatest sacrifice of a leader is learning how to be silent, not how to talk. Because as a leader, you have the advantage of seeing the broader picture. So you have a lot of information about what glitches are in your matrix or
Hmm.
whatever, or in your
Hmm.
situation.
Hmm.
So as a leader, you have to be gracious enough to see the weakness of your followers and not exploit them.
So when you said one of the most necessary strengths of a strength of a leader is being able to listen or be quiet. I was
Quiet.
thinking more in terms of like the marks of a great leader is his ability, her ability to follow or to be led. But
Most
you
of
you said it in a different way where you said the marks of a great leader or the marks of a leader is someone who won't exploit the weaknesses of those who are following him or her.
bottom line. And I still say that, but
Yeah,
it doesn't take away from what you're saying. It's
yeah.
actually addendum to what you're saying. I like what you said and added to what I said because a true leader knows the weakness of his followers. I'm the head of my home. I know the weakness of my wife. I know the weakness of my children. I know everybody's weakness. Now, a person who is a covering or maybe a covering, but not necessarily a leader, uses that information to his or her advantage.
Mm,
Well, you remember when you didn't, but when you understand that you are a leader and a covering, you're providing two dimensions of safety for the people that you have relationships with. I think, and I'm going to let you, but I think sometimes our view of relationship is self-centered.
yes.
And the very idea of relationship is duality. You know, we go into, especially those of us who espouse a certain belief in a certain tenet of faith, like the Bible or the Quran, or
Mhm.
anybody who has some kind of moral code that they live by, we have a tendency sometimes to box in that experience.
Mhm.
And we say, that's what that looks like. That's
Mhm.
what headships looks like. And
Mhm.
many of us who go to church, we think headships looks like our pastor. We
Oh,
think submission looks like the first lady.
Lord have mercy.
And then those of us raised in the home, we tend to be attracted to men who are like our dad. We tend to be attracted to women who are like our mom. And you may be attracted to a man that's like me, but I may not like him because he is. You know,
God.
because he is where I was. You follow what I'm saying? So that's a lot of time. That's the tension that happens between a father, a daughter, and her first boyfriend, because her first boyfriend usually looks like her dad, and every man after that, especially if there's an admiration and a respect for her dad. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
And we as children and when we grow into adulthood, we look for relationships that give us the same sense of security that our family had when we were at home.
Mhm.
Now, the mistake we make is that we have sometimes taught women that it's up to a man to give them that.
Oh,
That's not. You provide that for yourself
that's
and
good.
make sure he can match it.
That's ding, ding, ding.
Don't bring him into your environment until you know that his environment matches yours.
So I would imagine that when a woman dates a man who cannot match her environment, it creates a somewhat of an impossible situation for him to, I don't live up to, for him to,
Well,
impossible shoes for him to fill. Is that
you know what? Let me backtrack this because I
okay?
don't
Okay.
mess up. I don't want to kill my brother's dreams and hopes. Now I'm gonna say
It's
this. First
okay.
of all,
It's
I
okay.
don't think any man or woman is out of someone's league, as it were. Now
Yeah.
you can talk financial, you can talk other stuff, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just
Yeah.
talking about man, woman's. I don't think there's anybody out of his league, and it is possible to have a situation where you have a certain amount of order and you meet a young man that's at a different place of order than you are, but
Yes.
he's on his way there. Because I don't want to diminish away from the brothers who may have had a setback. I'm in my 60s. If you're dating a guy in his 40s or his 50s, he has a series of things that's happened in his past too that are predictors of where he is right now.
Yes.
If he's in his 40 or 50, he may have gone through divorce, he may have had some financial situation, and most
Sure.
of us, when we get are good. So you may catch him at his most vulnerable state.
Mhm.
But that may not be someone you need to throw away. It may be someone you need to cultivate and treat it as a social environment until he or you feel comfortable, or an individual feels comfortable with inviting that person into their environment.
I love that you said that because we as women, we need to hear more of that, that there is a sense of responsibility that we have to contribute to a budding relationship or a growing relationship. We're not just sitting up and just waiting for a man to do everything or prove his value or valor. It's really not about that. When I heard you speak to or speak about being able to match, I more so took in, can this man's character create, produce the same type of atmosphere? Because it's not really about money. It's
No,
really
no.
about, right? It's more so about, if I grew up in a home where there was order, there was structure, there was love, there was peace,
Mm-hmm.
peace. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a lot of arguing and bickering and confusion and mind
Mm-hmm.
games and manipulation, all kind of crazy stuff. Naturally, I am not going to find a man who is given to that type of nature or
Mm-hmm.
has not figured things out in his life to where he's creating atmospheres and situations that
Mm-hmm.
are confusing and
Mm-hmm.
lack love and lack peace and lack I got more of the sense that you were speaking to, has this man reached a place in his life where he can provide the same kind of atmosphere,
Right.
consistent stability, loving, caring, nurturing environment, and vice versa.
And
So
make sure, one of the things I always say, people sometimes, I say it so often, I think most people don't treat it with the respect. Make sure it has a reflection. Don't date a vampire.
what do you mean by that, Papa?
Can't see themselves.
Woo! My God, did he? Yes.
So many of us
Yeah.
date vampire women and date vampire men. I watch on the internet sometimes, and I hear the demands that women have of men and what they should have. And I'm looking for a high dollar, high value man. And I see men on TV saying, I'm looking for this kind of woman and I'm looking for this kind of woman. And
Hmm.
my thing is, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is the substances of how you have handled the difficult transitions of your life. Because no one comes from a pristine environment.
Right.
One of the things about that situation, let's say we have a female, which you are a leader, and I'm surrounded by
Yeah.
strong women who lead. And I think females should not be intimidated by their ability to lead. But I do say this, they need to know the wisdom of leadership.
Yes.
Because leadership is not just about knowing where you're going, it's about convincing the followers to go with you.
Endearing the
Yeah,
followers to go with.
there,
Yeah.
there you go. And it's
That's
the
how
same.
I see that as a woman, right?
Yeah,
Like, I'm not even trying to convince you. I want you to have experienced me in such a way that's so consistent and loving and soft and
right.
nurturing and kind that
Hmm.
you'll want to go where I'm going.
Right,
Even if it's like, well, I'm not really sure, but it feels good where she is. So, I want to go with her.
right, right, right.
Yeah,
And see, that's not male or female. That's human.
I agree. I
That's
agree,
human.
Papa.
That's the kind of man you want, and that's the
Yeah.
kind of woman most people want. Now, here's the thing that you have to understand too. Uh, when we look at society, society is what I call a compilation of fads and
Mm,
what works today.
mm,
When we talk about marriage, you go back to my wife and I, we got married back in the 80s
mm.
and early 80,
80?
1980, yeah, 1980, we got married.
Oh, 80.
Idea of marriage was totally different than what it is now.
Yeah.
The idea of marriage in the 60s was totally different. The idea, me growing up, I grew up with the idea of one of the responsibilities of becoming a man was to have a wife. and to have the responsibility of taking care of a family. I was raised by a grandfather who paradigmed that, and the people around me paradigmed that particular thing. So that was the influence of my life. Now, had I been raised in another setting where my dad was this, or running the streets or this kind of thing, then I might have a different paradigm. But that
Right.
was the paradigm that I came from. Now, as a result of that, as I have said before, uh, your culture puts pressure on you. The cultural thing like, for example, the way you were raised in our home
Hmm.
governs the way
Yes.
you conduct thousands of miles away. When you're in Japan and
Yes.
all the places you've traveled all over the world, those set of standards of moral guide who you
Yes.
are.
Yes.
And when we're looking to create relationship, make sure the person you're with has some guiding principles. It is impossible, ladies, to set guiding principles for a man that's grown. If he does not have guiding principles, then you're dealing with a boy and you can't raise him. Gentlemen, you cannot raise a woman who does not have guide. And what I mean by guiding principles, these are basic things that says I will not do.
Hmm.
I will not do these. These are my boundaries. Now, within our relationship, there are things that we can do, but these are my boundaries as a human. This is my boundaries as an individual. And when you find yourself in a relationship and you find the person has, how can I put it, skewed boundaries,
Or
then
or is upset by the fact that you have boundaries.
yeah,
It's been
most
something
of
that
well, it's because I think we live in a very surface world. We live the time we live in now is beauty, handsome, and money.
yeah.
Actually, money,
Right.
beauty, and handsome.
Money's at the
Every woman wants a baller, and every man wants that woman. They want that fire. You know what I mean?
that
And
stuff.
yeah, they want that stuff. And this is hard to say. Today, unfortunately, we don't marry because we don't get in relationships. Many of us don't get in relationships because they've been fond affection
Right.
to grow together, to build together, to prosper together. We get in a relationship because it satisfies the moment. And as long as you maintain your beauty, and as long as I maintain my bank account, we're gonna be cool. And
Man.
it's a very toxic,
Yes.
and we'll go back. That even takes me back to toxic masculinity, and that's the idea. And most of the time, when you talk about toxic masculinity, you're talking about men who talk abrasively to women and use misogynist terms and all of that. That's a real manifestation of toxic masculinity.
It's a
But
symptom.
another part of toxic masculinity is the need for a man to say it's okay to be vulnerable. I talked to you about this.
What do you mean by that, Papa?
In other words, we were talking about men and men's emotions and
Mhm.
how I'll use myself for example because I'm not a clinical psychologist, nor am I speaking from medical terms. I'm just speaking from personal experience.
Mhm.
Many of us as men of color, we have what I call stunning emotions. And what I mean by that is that our experience has not been, quote unquote, the norm. Whatever that is, it has not been the norm. Most of us were not raised with fathers, and that's not all of us. And then some of us were raised with fathers. Some of us were not raised. Many of us were raised in what would be termed as broken homes, or in homes that were not two-parent homes, the traditional home. So the teaching and the view of life sometimes can be skewed, and even by poverty or by circumstances, it can be skewed.
Yeah.
And those things can drive you emotionally inside.
Yeah.
Let me just tell with me, in order to be effective as a husband, as a father, and even to some degree as a minister, that's second, that's third to those other things. To be effective as a husband and father, I had to deal with my brokenness. I could not. Go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
I was just going to say, and then I'll let you finish. That's what it is. I feel like society has it as toxic masculinity, but I think that the toxicity is a symptom of
Right.
broken masculinity. The
Right.
idea is broken. The idea of what you're supposed to be as a man. That's a broken concept, a broken paradigm, right?
There you
And
go.
I want you to keep going, but I think that it's important that we shift that narrative and we change that conversation because we can't just slap that label on
Mm-hmm.
somebody. Well, he's toxic masculine. He's
Mm-hmm.
granted there are symptoms and sometimes we suffer the brunts or the
Mm-hmm.
results of someone
Mm-hmm.
having or dealing with broken masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
But when we really look at it from a humane sense, the concept of who you can be as a male,
Mm-hmm.
who you can be as a man,
Mm-hmm.
and not having an example, not having a real paradigm, or the examples that you had, they had broken examples, they had broken paradigms. Like there's a lot more to it than just slapping the label on someone.
Well,
And I
well,
want you to talk more about it, Papa. I didn't mean to
well,
cut.
I think one of the things that we sometimes don't take into consideration, and it's been largely something I've had to deal with within the confines of my relationship with your mom, and
Mm.
that is how much what happened to me as a child affects how I husband, how I dad, and how I friend.
So, Papa, can we go there?
Yes. Now, when I talks about toxic masculinity, let me
Mhm.
explain to you. You remember I gave you the example of Chernobyl. Uh, I think I shared the example. I may have shared it in one of our services, but I shared the example of Chernobyl. Chernobyl was a toxic nuclear waste
Mhm.
that exploded, and the whole town, hundreds of thousands of people
Mhm.
were affected by it. And of course, they were all evacuated and moved away. But there's older people that stayed, refused to leave their home
Right.
because they got used to the toxicity. Now, nobody can tell them they're not toxic because they grew up in it. That's how deeply things can get inside of us, and we can become radioactive to
Ooh.
situations. We can become reactive to
Ooh.
certain situations, not so much because of what she did or what he did. It's the environment of Chernobyl that we came out of, and we carry that toxicity. And here's the tough part about it. If I don't do some kind of decontamination
Mhm.
or some kind of way to
Yeah.
rid myself of that toxicity, I pass it on to the next generation because the sins of the children are passed on to the generation. The parents are passed on to the generation, even to the fourth generation. So nothing changes the pattern until we change. Make
Uh,
sense? Yeah.
yes.
And
Thank
the thing about it is, what's really difficult when you are engaging in the idea of relationship, merging two backgrounds, two ideologies together, and they may have a common belief in that they believe in Christ or whatever religious or whatever business venture you may have a common belief in that business, but that's not the thing that's going to keep you together. What's going to keep you together is not that common belief in Jesus. It's not that common belief in this. What's going to really keep you together is understanding what waste you bring to the party.
understanding it and owning it and acknowledging it and being willing to work on it and being willing to be vulnerable about it and creating a space for each other where you can work through that. Yeah, Papa?
And it has to be a safe place.
It has to be a safe
I think sometimes we want honesty, we want truth, we want transparency,
Yeah.
but we don't make it safe to do so. Okay, I want you to be honest with me. It's kind of like I was as a dad. You know, I think back to some of my toxicity I brought as a dad is I demanded honesty from my children, but they understood that if I'm honest, I get punished.
Yeah.
You know, in relationship, you can't punish your wife for being honest. You
Yeah.
can't punish your husband for being honest. Now, and my honesty can't break up our relationship.
That's so good.
Now, again, you know, that's again the honesty. We're not talking about some extreme cases. We're not dealing with some extreme
Right.
cases that could jeopardize your life and your well-being. We're not talking, we're just talking about common things. Yes.
We're not talking about extreme cases, and we're also not talking about when you weaponize
Yeah.
emotion or you
Yeah.
weaponize truth to gain sympathy or to manipulate a situation
Mhm.
or conversation
Yeah.
because you've been caught or because you're trying to endear this person towards you because you messed up, or that's not what you're talking about. You're
Mhm.
talking about a consistent, diligent effort on both sides to create an environment that is a soft place so that we can shed the toxicity, we can
Mhm.
shed what we might be carrying from our childhoods, we can shed
Mhm.
all of that. And it's
Right.
cradles, right? Like it's a
Right.
soft, it's a shored place for us. Yeah.
You know what, we have these so, and the older I've gotten and the longer I've been married, the more I hate some of the defined roles that we've given
Yeah.
each, uh, because every strong, powerful, hardworking, diligent man wants to be led.
Hmm.
Every leader,
Can you say that one more time?
every strong, providing, giving, loving man. I can say that about a leader, but I'm using the male gender for this
Yes,
purpose.
please do. Yeah.
Wants to be led. I want to be told, go over there and sit down. You're moving too much. Let me rub your feet. Let me take care of you. Every man wants to be led. Well, you're just saying you want to be led. No, no, no. He wants to be led. No, baby, you're not going. You don't need to go. Call your friend. Tell your friend you're not going. Stay here. I'm going to take care of. What do you want to eat? Every man wants
Mhm.
that as a part of their life. You know what I'm saying? And I get that, thank God. But at the same time, it's important that we don't define leadership as being these set of standards. We have these set of standards of what leadership is, because sometimes leadership is grabbing your husband by the hand and saying, let's go to bed. And
Yeah.
sometimes leadership is, you know, whatever. It's defined in so many roles. And I think that when you can, I like to say, go into a relationship with the clarity of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
You understand?
And in a lot of cases, that takes some time because
Wisdom.
to know and to be clear about what you need and what you desire, you got to
Mhm.
know yourself.
Right.
And you often don't know yourself at 20,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
30,
You
sometimes
get, you
40.
get 40, 45, you start knowing yourself a little better around that time.
Right,
If you
right.
don't know yourself by 60, you probably crazy anyway.
Right.
You're in trouble anyway. Anyway, go ahead. But yeah,
That's
I just, I feel, Lee, that relationship on any level, whether it be relationship with my wife, relationship with my kids, my friends, my softball buddies, whatever, uh, it requires a certain amount of systematic understanding of events. Let me see if I have to be able to quickly assess why I'm responding
yeah,
without asking why. What is the necessary response to this, and does the response match the action? Does that make sense? And
100%.
with that, you can't be fast.
You cannot.
Nothing we're talking about you can be quick with.
It's
That's
not
why.
reactive. It's
Yeah,
proactive. It's not reactive.
it is. And it's almost like You're not quick to say, I understand.
That's really good.
Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, we get wisdom.
Yes.
Wisdom is slow. How can understanding be fast?
Ooh. Well,
That's why when I'm telling somebody you hurt my feelings and they say, I understand, they don't. That's why you say, this is what you did, and their apology is mute, they don't.
yeah.
That's why when I hurt you, I want to make sure you understand that I want to understand. Because if I don't understand, how can I get wisdom? I don't need
Might not
understand,
do it again. Right. Right.
but you can't have wisdom without understanding. We want wisdom without understanding. We want wisdom in our misunderstanding.
Which is great.
Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with that wisdom comes understanding. How can you understand without wisdom? And if wisdom is slow, how do you understand so
So
fast?
quickly. I love that, Papa. That's
You
excellent.
know what we understand? We understand what you did and how it affected me.
Right.
That's all I understand.
Or
That's
understand that I don't want to be in this blame.
and I
I don't
got
want to
hurt.
be blamed first.
It ain't my fault. It ain't, yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
most of the time, wisdom is not applied when we're defending. I don't use wisdom when I'm defending myself because defense is immediate. Wisdom is slow because with wisdom comes understanding. And sometimes understanding means you have to put two parts together and you only got one.
And putting the two parts together takes time.
It takes time.
Yeah. That's really good, Papa.
That's why I teach. I hurt your feelings. Please
Yeah.
forgive me, even if I don't understand.
Please
Wisdom,
forgive me first.
please forgive.
Then, mhm.
And if I hurt your feelings, let me just give you an example of what I'm saying.
Okay.
How do I put it? Let me just, it may take me too long to come up with my young brain. Uh, uh, how do I put it? Go ahead and talk it out. I'll catch up with you. I'm trying to
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Well, you
Let's
have
take a
always
few more minutes. Go. I'm sorry, go ahead, baby. Go ahead, sweetie.
you've always taught that when in the event someone brings an offense to you, the first response should come from a sincere place of apathy. And
Reconciliation.
yeah, that should be the goal. The goal should first be to relate to that person in such a way where I'm not thinking of defending myself first. I'm thinking about the fact that I'm in relationship with this person. I love this person. We're friends, family, whatever it is.
And if this is their perception of me, I am
I gotta
obligated
fix
by
it.
my image to fix it. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah.
finish.
So I've found it very difficult to be in relationships with people. Well, let me not say it that way. I have found it to be in intimate relationships with people, the closest of relationships with people who don't understand that concept, even after I've explained it, even after I've personified it, even after I've exemplified it. Because to explain away why you did what you did or to defend yourself in a situation where I'm bringing a hurt or a pain or an offense from you to me, it leaves me in such a I don't know how to continue to want to be intimate with someone who doesn't acknowledge the way that I feel or the fact that my feelings matter. And not that feelings are everything. They're not. They're really not. But the acknowledgement of offending someone's feelings within a relationship is kind of everything because it's
Go ahead, baby.
well, I'm just speaking to the fact that if we're in a boat together and we're relating together, how we roll matters. It can't just be, well, I roll how I roll and roll how you roll. No, we got to roll together. And if I'm telling you that your role is hard for me to get with, or you're telling me my role is hard to get with, that's not the time for me to be arguing with you and saying, well, I wrote the way I wrote and you just got to get with it. No, that's the time to have a meeting of the minds. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, maybe I can get in sync with your role, or what can we do so we can get in sync? That's the way that I think of it. Because what I have found is in relationships that I'm in where someone may offend me and I bring it to them and I'm honest and vulnerable enough to bring that offense to them.
Which is difficult anyway.
It's difficult anyways. It requires
You don't
vulnerability.
want to be crying all the time. You don't want to come off like a whiny baby.
You
Yeah,
don't. And it's like you're holding your heart in your hand, right? And it's like you kind of hurt my heart a little bit. And when someone is like, well, you should have never gave me your heart in the first place, or you should have never let, it's kind of like, oh, okay. And for that to happen over and over again, I think it's a natural human instinct to not go there anymore, to not have these conversations anymore when you're anticipating the response to be a defense.
well, I think that you become a person who learns how to deal. How do I put it?
Hmm.
You become a paramedic. You can't do what a doctor does, but you can keep them alive until the ambulance gets there.
Yeah, Milan.
And what I mean by this is uh, there are certain individuals by perception, by spiritual understanding or whatever, that they have a limited understanding of what forgiveness is all about.
Mhm.
So your ability to navigate their offenses becomes, how can I say, toughened.
Uh-huh.
What maybe I could say to you that would hurt you because of the intensity of the intimacy of the
Mhm.
relationship. Your husband, even though that's your husband, he can say the same thing. And you're like, oh, that's who he is.
Right.
Because you build that callus over that particular area. Now that's a caution, because if you do that, you can become very hard-hearted. And you can really become a bitter person. It's kind of like that bitter candy is sweet on the outside and bitter on the inside.
Or like a Sour Patch Kid.
Yeah, there you go. You become a Sour Patch Kid in life.
A little bit.
You're sweet on the inside, and you got this bitterness that's going on with you. So it's really kind of know them, read your room, read the room,
Read the room.
read the room. There are times when you say that was hurtful,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not gonna bring that up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
More often than not.
can't deal with that
Yeah.
because you know the outcome. And
Mhm.
there are times that you may be with someone who is in the same space as you are, who understands the importance of maintaining viable relationship, and that your offense is not a belittling of who you are. What you did, I'm not saying you're less than or you're little than. I'm just simply saying what you did affected me adversely. And all I'm really looking for is some concern. I'm not really looking for any monumental change, just to simply say, listen, I apologize. Never meant to do it. You know, uh, you disrespect me in this way. Okay, I apologize. Now, in my mind, I may be thinking, really? Come on now, really? Is that really? You got to think about that for real. That's in my mind, but
Mhm.
that's not in my behavior. That's not in my demeanor. That's not in my spirit. Just
Yeah.
because it's in my thoughts doesn't mean. So I think it's just us understanding that we don't always understand what we think we do, and that time reveals true understanding.
I love time. Time is my best friend. I
It
always say
is.
that because
It
time
is.
reveals everything. It
That's
does.
it. That's
Yeah.
it. And you got to understand that to everything there is times and there are seasons. That's what the scripture says. So we understand that. And so I think that if you embrace not just your idea of the perfected life, but you enjoy the process of creating a life that you can perfect.
It's really in that process. It's really
That's
in enjoying that process and not
just
being so
not feeling that.
fixed on a destination, or it's got to be
Right.
this, or it's got to look like this, or it's got to end up here, but really just enjoying that ride.
Just your, yeah. Like for example, you're a single young lady, uh, for a little while anyway. Uh, First of all of you single young ladies, if you really are interested in relationship, he ain't coming to your house. You have to create some kind of social place, and of course, I want a place that you can go to say. And young men, if you want to meet some viable young ladies, find out there's ways that you can with the way we are now, not back in the day when I dated you, it was different for me back in the day when I dated your wife. We had to go to people's houses and we didn't have cell phones. We actually had to go to somebody's house and with a rotary phone. And it was a little different situation. There was no internet and all of that. So if you're going to meet somebody, you had to go to the skating rink, you had to go to the club, you had to go
It
somewhere.
required more effort and
Yeah.
diligence.
Now you guys can just look at the
Right.
screen and
Yeah.
then just flip the screen. He ain't the one, she ain't the one. And I'm not encouraging that kind of thing, but that's the environment we live in right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But I do encourage you, if you are a person who desires of having a relationship as you are, is that you have to make yourself visible.
Yes.
He can't get you if he can't see you. You know, you keep going to the same supermarket. Drive across town, go to that new supermarket up there where they got them hot dogs on the heels, you know, to change it up a little bit. You going down there to the hood grocery store every day. All I see is thugs. Well, that's
Oh,
where you be
God.
going. Come on. Go somewhere different. Change it up. Anyway, man, where are we? Are we good? We good? What's
I
happening?
think we're good. I think today's discussion was rich. We
Excellent.
went a few different places. I'm not sure where we're gonna pick up next time because
Well,
we touched a lot in this convo. I think it's
I
important.
think we can go anywhere. We
Yeah,
can go.
I really think it's important for folk to know where you come from, Papa.
Okay. We'll
And
talk.
I think it's important because it's remarkable. It's remarkable. It's
God
remarkable.
is good. God's been good to me. God's been good. You
So,
know what I think, and then I'm gonna close with this. My greatest asset in life has been my fears,
ooh,
and
yeah.
I'm gonna share a little bit more in depth. Uh, I ran to something. I was running from something until I met the Creator. Then I started running to something, and then God gave me you, and I started running for something. See, everybody needs a cause.
Everyone needs a call.
When I started having
Okay.
kids, you're always running from something, or you're running to something. The key to life, to keep your twos, you got to have a four.
Oh, so you gotta interject a for something in there.
You got to run for something. Because just running to something, well, it's good to have $1 million and have nobody share it with. Well, it's good to have whatever. And nobody, I was running from something when I left South Carolina when I was a kid
Mm.
to running to something, the military, a better life, something I wanted for me and my daughter and my wife, my girl at the time.
Hmm.
To now, when you guys came along, my kids, I ran for something.
That's really good.
It's not about walk, it's running, it's finding something that propels you. And my greatest fear is letting you guys down and not being daddy, not being grandpa, not being husband, not being whatever I am to the people I'm supposed to be. So that's the fuel that's kept me going. But we'll talk about it more next time.
Yeah, we're that's a good starting point. We're gonna pick up from there next time we
All
get
right.
together. I
All right,
love you
girl.
so much.
Love you
Love
too,
you, love
baby.
you, love you. I appreciate this time. I can't wait to do it again. Hey, listen, y'all, if you got anything from this, if you enjoyed this
Yes.
conversation, if you want more of it, like, subscribe,
And share.
and share. Yes, Papa.
Come
We're new to
on,
this,
y'all.
okay?
Come
We
on,
figuring
y'all.
it out as we go, but come on, y'all.
That's it. Help us
Like,
out now. Help us
subscribe, and
out.
share.
My
And
daughter.
Papa said in the last one, and follow us. I'm Elika Karina. This is Eric Choice Morrison. It's been a pleasure and an honor and a privilege. We love you. God bless you. Take
God
care of
bless.
yourself and your neighbor.
Appreciate you. All right. Love you, baby.
I love you, Papa.
All right,
Bye.
now, bye.